What is good in the hood, citizens of the universe? My name is Gaia, and welcome to my first video on this channel. Well, my first art video on this channel. And for my first art video, I'm going to be redesigning Neith from the video game SMITE. SMITE is a MOBA game that centers around deities, heroes, and mythical creatures stretching from different pantheons, duking it out in different game modes. You can play 5 different classes: assassins, hunters, guardians, warriors, and mages. Plan your builds and work with your teammates to ensure victory over your enemies. Your results will vary. Though it can take time to learn the game, and your matches can suck sometimes, it can be very rewarding and fun once you start getting the hang of it. I'm not being sponsored, love to be high-res. This is my own recommendation. Neith was once the poster girl for SMITE, having been referenced as the first in SMITE lore, being in many of the promotional arts, and even being one of the main characters for the Dark Horse comic. But as time went on, Neith's spot eventually was given to Bellona, the Roman goddess of war. I have my own feelings on her design, however, that's another topic for another day. And with this being the 10-year anniversary, I thought now was the perfect time to give our dear first another redesign. Yes, another go. I have done this before. Neith is a goddess from the Egyptian pantheon, and she has a lot of titles. Goddess of creation, goddess of fate, no not that fate, weaving, war, hunting. She's a motherly figure, she's a funerary goddess. She is truly every woman. But SMITE had narrowed her down to Weaver of Fate, which is fine, keep it simple. She has 2 models, one you see in-game while playing SMITE, and one which was used for cinematic trailers. I prefer this one. The golden green axes look so lovely on her, and the tattoos are far more detailed. However, neither gives much weaving. I believe the outfit is a victim of its time, the bikini armor design. There's nothing wrong with the bikini armor design, however, it seems that was Hi-Res's crutch back then, using it for quite a few goddesses. And aside from a few cultural differences, it can start looking very redundant, which doesn't help if you're not the only goddess in the pantheon, and at worst, it can look very fan-servicey more than goddess. Not a great look. Thankfully, Hi-Res has improved greatly over the years, remodeling a few of their goddesses. Iset, for example, has been given a golden dress instead to help her separate herself from the other goddesses in her pantheon, and I want to follow this idea. Remember that old design I mentioned? I'll be using that as a base. I was trying to give Neith as much textile as possible. I had given her a shawl to tie in with her weaving elements. It was for a contest I got 2nd place in, so I have the right idea. I did a vague sketch of what I wanted to do this time around. I kept her hair the same and kept the shawl. It is said that Neith weaved shawls for the deceased to give them protection through their journey in the afterlife, and gave her armor more intricacies, as well as changing her headdress. But that's enough talking about the design. Let's get to the actual design itself. Hey, so heads up, I used Clip Studio Paint to record this, so I won't be able to zoom in on some parts. So for Neith's body, I kind of wanted to give her a muscular build. She was a war goddess at one point, so you know, I think that would help differentiate her a bit from the other goddesses in the pantheon. I don't know if I succeeded in that though. It doesn't look too different from the original. As for her belt, I based it off of ancient Egyptian waist armor. It has a very unique shape and it's very large. I don't know how they ran with these. And I just think it would look very cumbersome underneath. She does a lot of hopping around, and so it wouldn't have translated well to the design, so I shrunk it down a bit. Did give her a lot of designs though, because Neith's always referenced as this fashionista. Her weaving's always referenced from other gods and whatnot. So, you know, she has to look as opulent as possible. So I really went in on the little designs element. Now for her shoes, I decided to keep them the same after reading that in some stories, Neith is the mother of both Ra and a Pep, or Apophis for SMITE fans. Apep is the god of chaos, an enemy to Ra, trying to devour him every night while Ra travels through the underworld. If Apep was to succeed, the world would end. Does that sound familiar? They even look similar. I wonder if that was intentional too. Along with being mother to Sobek, this has led many people to associating her as a water goddess as well. Again, she's every woman. I changed her headdress to look more like the red crown, called the Destret. I hope I said that correctly. Mainly worn by pharaohs of Lower Egypt, where Neith was worshipped the most. The city of Sais, to be exact. As I said before, I kept her hair relatively the same. The berets on the ends are much different because it was a lot of work to get those done. I wanted to give her more beads. I thought that'd be cuter on her anyways. For her bracelet, I had put the Ankh symbol on there, the symbol of life, as she is often depicted with it. So, she needs to have that on her person. I tried to incorporate Egyptian features on her face. I don't know if I got the hooked nose look from the front, but I do like how it came out. Now, some of you may notice that the shawl looks more like a dress than a shawl. That wasn't the intention. The intention was to, just have the top, but I feared the bottoms just wouldn't be enough. It would just look a little unbalanced, so I decided to, give her a skirt under there as well. And maybe I should have given it a different pattern, but I just didn't want too much happening on her, I decided to make her shawl a bit see-through as well, as nudity seemed to be common back in ancient Egypt. And I like the challenge of trying to figure out how to show a little bit but not too much, and also still trying to keep the androgynous vibe to Neith. Neith is often seen as genderless, or both masculine and feminine, sometimes depicted as a woman with a phallic piece. So, she's every woman and man. I like the idea of Neith being tied to both creation and destruction. It gives a very interesting balance to her. And at some points, she can even be compared to Loki. Both having given birth to giant world-ending serpents, and both being seen as genderless sometimes. Though Loki is usually seen as an evil deity, we can thank Christianity for that, he's actually more of a chaotic neutral than a chaotic evil, often helping his fellow deities as well as harming them, helping calm Scotty down and making her smile after the Nordic team murdered her father, and helping Thor get his hammer back from a bunch of Jotuns, which required some cross-dressing action. Neith is more of a mediator though. Her biggest deed was helping in the kingly war between Horus and Set, siding with Horus and giving Set a few wives as compensation. Because, if when in doubt, get some maidens. Adding some highlights and shadows to her, and we're done. Except, we're not done. I did not like this version. So I went back and redid it all over again. I changed her bracelet to incorporate her name in hieroglyphs. I redid the loincloth. Oh Jesus, I don't want to get into the loincloth. Let's just say I spent way more time doing research on Egyptian textiles than I probably needed to, and it ended up just coming out as me just doing a little flower on it. It was not a fun time. It's probably what took most of my time making this video. And the tattoos, I was just struggling with the tattoos. I finally found an idea of what to do with them after I finished recording. I ended up changing them one more time. The idea was to have the hieroglyphs etched onto her skin. Like everyone in the world, their faces are just on her skin, so she's like the world's connected to her. That was the idea, so I ended up changing the pattern because just whatever pattern Hyros was doing with her initial look, it just, I don't know what it's tied to. It looks very strange. I made her shawl tan rather than blue. It just pops more. I also add some more textiles to the shawl called tali. It's a type of metal embroidery used on dresses in Egyptian clothing. I discovered it late in the speed painting process, but I just found it so pretty. I'm like, I gotta put it in here somehow. So I did end up incorporating that. Kept her gemstones the same. I guess I should have specified the gemstones I use for Neith are turquoise, rubies, and emeralds as like the main connecting pieces, as the emeralds are, as all the gems out actually are found in Egypt. And if you look closely at the shoe at Apophis down there, he actually has a ruby in his mouth, and I kind of wanted to make it look like he was almost eating the sun. It seems very morbid, but I thought that'd be a really cool little feature. Now for her back, you'll see that most when you're playing the game. You rarely see the front of the god unless like you're facing an opponent. And so I wanted to make that as detailed as possible. I gave her a little tailpiece. I don't know what it's called, I'm sorry. And for the like top of the belt, I did it in a wing shape. And it's supposed to have been, the gemstone's supposed to have been a scarab, but I just couldn't quite get it without sacrificing the spear. I just really like the shape of it. And for the tailpiece, I decided to do some embroidery. The weaving work would be in the shape of the ankh, so instead of on her wrist, I moved it to her back. As the bracelet itself was pretty ugly, in my opinion. And her shawl will have a cutout so that you can see the back piece. I wanted her to have a back piece, but not that ugly piece y'all saw in the old redesign. I decided to do some research and see what sacred symbols Neith has, the bow and arrow, the crossbows and shields, but I felt that was just too much. The loom and the spider. Now, I chose the spider. I thought that would be cool. There's only one issue. I have huge arachnophobia, but I'm also very crazy about doing like research and getting things as close as I could. So like I would look up what type of spiders would be in that region. Except, I couldn't because I have arachnophobia and I was about to terrify myself doing that. I mean, I went to my Discord and asked my Discord friends, yo, did anyone like look up spiders in Egypt for me? I just can't do it. But I tried. Barely. I like covered parts of my screen because I just did not want to look at spiders. And I chose this little guy. This was as close as I could get, so that's what I used. And we're done. I do love how it came out in the end, even with all the redoings and whatnot. I guess that's the burden of being an artist. You're always a perfectionist. I also redid her recolor, which was mischievous, and I redid her masteries, which is gold, legendary, and diamond for those who don't know. Really liked how I did the masteries. I really wanted to make sure that it shimmered and that the tattoos glowed and popped in the design, even through the shawl. And here is her full concept, the front and back, and I also redid her bow and arrow, because why redo her design if I'm just going to keep the weapon the same, you know? I had a lot more plans, like talking about Neith's personality and her purpose in the story. I just didn't have enough time within the speed paint to say everything I want to say, so I might make a two-parter for that. If you liked the video, like it, subscribe if you want to see more from me, and leave any comments. I would greatly appreciate it, whether it's about the design, whether it's about Neith, any inaccuracies I may have said, please let me know. Who's your favorite god? How'd you learn about them? Whether it's through SMITE, your culture, or your own readings. I'd love to know. And who knows? Maybe I'll design them one day. Until next time.